Welcome to our conference and thank you for being part of this great initiative. I would like to congratulate the people who have made possible this extraordinary event for all the effort and collaboration. Great job, guys. My name is Deyvis Sanchez, and I'm from the Dominican Republic. Yes, I know I know what you're thinking. It is close to Punta Cana. Yeah, I know. And I work at a binational center in Santo Domingo, Instituto Cultural Dominico Americano. It's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure to share with all of you today. I've been an EFL teacher, administrator, and program coordinator for over 25 years already, and I am more than honored to be one of the speakers today. My chat is entitled Scaffolding, Moving Students Progressively Towards Stronger Understanding. And for the next 10 minutes, we are going to talk about scaffolding. And this is what I have planned to include in my presentation today. A definition for scaffolding, two basic principles for implementing scaffolding, an English language teaching example of how to implement scaffolding in class, a daily life example of how we use scaffolding in real life, and finally, some final thoughts. Having that said, let's get going. Scaffolding. I know we are not engineers, architects, or construction workers, but we do help construct and build knowledge, right? The term scaffolding comes from the platforms workers use when constructing a building. Scaffolds are temporary structures that physically support workers while they complete jobs and that would otherwise be impossible to get to a place. Scaffolds provide workers with both a place to work and the means to reach the areas where they could not access on their own. Like those scaffolds which provide a place for the workers to stand before the building is in place, teachers can provide guides and structures to help learners comprehend concepts more quickly. Instructional scaffolding is a teaching strategy that was clearly named for the practical resemblance it bears to the physical scaffolds used on construction sites. The basic idea of scaffolding is to create opportunities for students to learn step by step, building upon tasks that will allow them to combine those basic concepts together to perform more quickly more difficult tasks. Instructional scaffolding involves two major steps. The first step is development of instructional plans to lead the students from what they already know to a deep understanding of new material. This is planning time, and we plan based on what our students will learn, based on their needs. The second major step of instructional scaffolding is execution of the plans, wherein the teacher provides support to the students at every step of the learning process. And of course, this is the let's make it happen moment. Our goal in employing scaffolding techniques is offering just enough assistance to guide the students toward independence and self-regulation. So how do you scaffold? Well, one of the key scaffolding principles in language learning is the idea that for a student to understand new and particular complex tasks, modeling is generally the first step in instructional scaffolding. So first we have to model behavior, guide students through different parts of a behavior by practice, and then have the students perform the complex behavior on their own. The strategy consists of teaching new skills by engaging students to collaborate in tasks. That would be too difficult. The tasks that would be too difficult for them to complete on their own. The teacher initially provides extensive instructional support or scaffolding to continually assist the students in building their understanding of new content or process. Once the students internalize the content or the process, they assume full responsibility for controlling the progress of a given task. The temporary scaffolding provided by the instructor is removed to reveal the impressive permanent structure of a student's understanding. Let me give you an example to show you how this might happen in language learning. In this slide, there is an example based on how to learn to ride a bicycle. But I will give you language learning example instead. I have to model the behavior. Let's say that I have advanced students who are ready to learn how to use the passive voice. It is a pretty tricky advanced skill, so one of the best ways to teach this is to scaffold it. Generally, I begin by showing example of the passive voice, often in real context, and have learners get a sense of it. In order to better model the behavior, I will also break the process into different steps and show those steps to my students. For example, I might show learners how to take an object from an active sentence and make it the subject, which is the first step. Then for the second step, I might ask them to add the verb be. I would also probably only focus on present tense because using a lot of different tenses might confuse the students initially. And then finally, I might tell them to add the past participle after the main verb in the active sentence. I might also show them an optional fourth step, which is adding the subject of the active sentence by using the by phrase. Now that I have modeled the behavior and shown the steps to the students, they are ready to move to the second part of the scaffolding, which is practice in a guided or controlled fashion. I usually try to provide clear instructions in sample sentences to have students create passive voice. Once again, performing each step within the process. First, I will have students find the object, then they will add the verb be, and finally, I instruct them to add a past participle. After having done a guided practice, you are finally ready to have students attempt for independent tasks. To gain a better understanding of a scaffolding, consider the analogy of a child learning to walk. As a father of 4 daughters and a baby boy, I consider an expert on the field. Trust me. First, the parent holds the child up. Just imagine the child. His feet barely touch the floor as he mimics walking. Slowly, the child is allowed to support more and more of his own weight. Next, he might support himself by holding on to an object like a coffee table while his parents watch. Finally, the child is ready to take steps. Though his parent's hand might still be just away from the kid, soon enough the child is walking and even running on his own. Like the parents in this example, teachers teaching new tasks initially have complete control and support of their students. Gradually, when the students are ready, support is withdrawn until the students are able to stand on their own. We use instructional scaffolding in the classroom in different ways. For example, by asking open-ended questions, repeating new language, rephrasing and modeling, pause, prompt, praise, extending or being an active listener to. In addition to modeling, it is extremely important for the instructor to offer explanations which should be explicit statements adjusted to the fit of the learner's emerging understanding about what is being learned. Particularly in the early stages of scaffolding, an instructor must invite students to participate in the task at hand. This practice engages students in learning and provides them with ownership of the learning experience. As the students gain experience with new material, it is important for the instructor to continuously assess their understanding and offer feedback. However, often this is an imperfect art. Sometimes if I see students struggling, I may start from the beginning yet again by looking at the readings with passive voice, or maybe I will have them continue to do more advanced guided practice with me. Perhaps I will have students write sentences on their own and share some sentences with a partner. I would like to say that scaffolding is not unidirectional. It is more recursive. And what that means that I will go back and forth, back and forth. And I think my time is almost over. And then I would like to check only the last slide, that a student learn more when they are actively engaged in instructional tasks. Students become independent, self-regular learners through instruction that is deliberately and carefully scaffolded, and students can become more independent, self-regular learners through instruction that is explicit. And remember that this is not a perfect art. Sometimes we gotta go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. This is Deyvis Sanchez from the Dominican Republic. I wish you Merry Christmas and a fruitful 2018. Thank you very much.